When the first wave of reactions came out for James Wan's fantasy superhero epic Aquaman, this quote from Andrew Dice of Screen Rant stayed with me. Imagine 80s Schwarzenegger starring in Hideo Kojima's Avatar, and you're most of the way there. I think this is probably the single greatest way you could sum up 2018's Aquaman, because it is as bonkers as anything in Metal Gear Solid, as imaginative as anything in Avatar, and the overall package has the cheesiness of those perfect action movies from decades ago, and Arnie would have totally played the King of Atlantis back in the day. But beyond that, James Wan's Aquaman is one of the most earnest, most colourful, and most visually awe-inspiring blockbusters in recent memory, not to mention a perfect Christmas movie, more on that in a bit, and I'm here to tell you why this is not only the film that sent the DCEU into the stratosphere, it's their best offering to date. I've wanted to talk about Aquaman for a long time, but there's a frequent commenter and viewer of the channel who I think might want me to talk about Aquaman just a little bit more. So without further ado,
Jabari Jefferson, this one's for you.
Where to start talking about this movie, I honestly don't even know. Maybe I should just list off all the things that are absolutely insane but awesome, like the snapshot montage with the biker dudes who managed to turn Aquaman into an aqua lad, the sweet drumming octopus who's actually meant to be Topo, Aquaman's musician octopus sidekick from the 50s, because of course he is, Mary Poppins voicing a kaiju, Aquaman controlling a kaiju, this guy constantly looking like he's taken a special kind of something in the middle of a Ministry of Sound garage night, the Rocky montage of Black Manta building his new suit, Ocean Master's somehow expressive metal mask, Momoa actually riding a freaking seahorse into battle, and of course, the Pitbull Beach transition.
Look, stepped on, left for dead, always against all odds like Pac said. I'm the living.
I think about all these things that managed to make it into a massive studio release like Aquaman, and it fills me with joy. What I like about the glorious melting pot of bizarre and breathtaking ideas in this film is that it's like that from the word go. The opening scene where Arthur's parents meet cute wants you to absolutely buy into the tone that it is setting for the rest of the movie.
I was gonna make you some eggs.
It's a lot to take in, and you are either in from the start or you are out, and I appreciate that. It's telling you that this is going to be a little cheesy, a little silly, but warm and sincere. So if you didn't like the opening scene and then proceeded to hate the rest of the movie, I don't really know what you expected. It also tells us that we're going to get some kick-ass action. Parts of the movie have that kind of Kingsman feel where the characters are jumping around and sliding in and out of danger as they plough through a dozen henchmen, and it's always over the top and inhumanely fast, but I can't help but get caught up in the excitement of it. Plus it does that thing that seems obvious but I always appreciate it when it happens. I can see everything that's going on! Momoa's entrance into the movie is fantastic, set on a submarine that's in the middle of being captured by seafaring pirate Black Manta.
Permission to come aboard.
Momoa's submarine entrance to me feels like what the opening to Winter Soldier was for Cap, in the sense that this is a display of Arthur Curry's newly amped up skill set and power. As with Steve Rogers, this is a signal to the audience that the version of said character you saw before was in fact the freaking nerfed version. Here they really are in all their magnificent glory, and they're going to kick 7 shades of out of some bad guys, and you're goddamn going to like it. Also shield throwing in both. There's loads of fun physical comedy in this sequence too, like this goon cowering in the corner behind Arthur, or the moment where it's framed so he reveals himself from behind a dude he's just knocked the hell out. There's POVs of rifles going off, slow-mo of Momoa coming out of the misty gas, one is just throwing everything at the viewer that could possibly get a smile out of them. And then to top it all off, we get a sweet one-on-one with Black Manta, who is at this point hilariously outmatched. Black Manta's relationship to his father is only briefly touched upon, but I think it really adds a layer of vulnerability to the character and makes him more than just a mini-boss in the movie.
He gave it to me when I was your age. And now it's yours, son.
Manta desperately tries to save him, right up until his father takes the decision out of his hands, and it gives him ample reason to want to kill Arthur.
Damn you!
Something which also furthers his arc too, more on that in a bit. It all ties into the overarching themes of love and parenthood that permeate the movie. A lesser comic book movie wouldn't have done this, but I think it's a nice piece of texture to flesh out a character that will clearly become more relevant in the next instalment. At the same time, he's not an extended cameo in this movie, he feels like a legitimate secondary antagonist. But here one chiefly relies on frequent collaborator Patrick Wilson to give our hero a hard time. He plays King Orm, Arthur Curry's half-brother, and current ruler of Atlantis who's hellbent on uniting the disparate races under the sea to start a war with the surface world. Not only does Wilson kill it in the role, as he always does, but Orm actually has a better motivation than most comic book villains. He's got beef with the surface world because they're poisoning the space in which all his people live. Obviously you'd want to wipe these surface-dwelling out. And even at that, this guy isn't just a bloodthirsty killer, he even offers to spare Arthur at one point.
I do not want to kill you, Arthur. I'm going to give you one chance. Go home.
He's really just a king doing what he feels it is going to take to keep the seas safe from human pollution. It's the way he goes about it, killing King Riku and tricking Dolph Lundgren's King Eurus into joining him, that makes him so despicable. And on this note, the entire extended cast, from Jango Fett himself to Mira Morrison, to Nicole Kidman to Dolph Lundgren to Abdul Mateen too, do an excellent job of imbuing life to all these larger-than-life comic book roles. Not to mention, it's really nice to see Willem Dafoe return to superhero cinema in a noble mentor role. It's the polar opposite of the Goblin, and he crushes it. Honestly, I think the only performance in this movie I don't enjoy is the young Arthur Curry.
Are you saying they executed her? Because she had me?
Yeah, that's not great. To stop Orm's plans, Arthur reluctantly embarks on a quest alongside Mira to uncover the lost trident of Atlan. So you basically get an Indiana Jones style quest movie, except it's more like watching Thor go on an indie style quest to get the Ark of the Covenant, except the Ark of the Covenant is actually his enchanted hammer. Also, I'm not really the sort of guy to be like, whoa, the lore is really cool in this movie, but the lore is really cool in this movie. The idea that Atlantis was a technological superpower and then destroyed itself, sank into the depths, and then split off into different factions, some of which evolved, some of which devolved, is really interesting to me. It provides a lot of breadth and depth to the Aquaman world, and really, he could exist in his own bubble absent from the rest of the DCEU if he wanted to. There's such a wealth of material, from the brine, to the trench, to ancient Lovecraftian monsters, to the history of Atlantis' mythic rulers, to be mined here. The amount of variety and genre hopping that goes on in this movie is crazy. You get an underwater epic that feels like a space fantasy at times, you get a magical quest movie with the iconography of something like Romancing the Stone, you get a full-on action movie, you even get a superhero movie but you don't at the same time. The movie is confident to rest on its fantasy elements, but you still get plenty of moments where our superhero is actually saving people. How many superhero movies can you name that keep their lead out of their iconic costume for most of the movie and they make it work? Not many of them. This movie gets to have its cake and eat it too, and the lead up to getting there really works as we see our heroic pairing go globetrotting and venturing into the desert.
Nothing but desert for hundreds of Ks, mate!
I spy Wild Lee Winnell, another frequent collaborator of Wands, and also the writer-director behind Upgrade, a freaking awesome movie which I've also wanted to talk about for a long time, so expect a video on that soon. But the best cameo in the movie is still Stingray. Stingray! Are you kidding me? I can't believe I got to hear just a few seconds of that theme before Atlanta lobs her trident right into it. Magnificent. Romance is obviously a key component to the movie. Thomas Curry and Queen Atlanna's separation and eventual reunion bookend the movie, not to mention the idea that Arthur's father has waited by the dock of his lighthouse every morning for his queen to return, paves the way for one of the film's sweetest moments.
He still walks to the end of that dock. Every morning.
But it's the blossoming romance between Arthur and Mira that is the heart and soul of the movie. They come from completely different worlds, echoing Thomas and Atlanna's love, but it's hardly puppy love from the get-go. The main focus of their burgeoning rapport in the movie is the quest to uncover King Atlan's trident. As a pulp adventure duo, they're perfect. Arthur is the physical presence, getting stuck into every bout of fisticuffs with glee, and solving his problems with brute force and a dash of plucky optimism, and, charm.
Show off. I could have just peed on it.
Whilst Mira is the thinker, the one with about 6 different versions of a plan swirling around in her head and her sights on the bigger picture at play, their temperaments and skill sets complement each other perfectly. I love how Arthur is like this hulking warrior, and Mira, with her unique water manipulation powers, is more like the Atlantean equivalent to this would-be king's wise old wizard. King Arthur and Merlin indeed, but about 1,000 times sexier. Jeez. Nowhere is this duo's unique energy better encapsulated than in the movie's best sequence, the Sicilian town. Mira, having rarely ever ventured to the surface, gets a brief fish out of water moment where she eats flowers and interacts with the locals. Having Roy Orbison's She's a Mystery to Me play over this fun little montage feels super Sam Raimi to me.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
In fact, I'd say that most of the goofy humour in Aquaman evokes things that we'd see in the Raimi trilogy than, say, an MCU movie. I think it helps that both iterations of these superheroes exude that earnestness that I spoke about earlier, not to mention the fact that one makes saving innocent civilians part of the tension in the action sequences, just as Raimi did.
Scusi.
Arthur's journey throughout the movie is really well thought out in my opinion, and makes up for a lot of the hokier parts of the script. He starts off as this aggressive loner who saves people and has a good heart, but doesn't very much like to engage with people around him beyond his father. He's the bridge between two worlds, but very much akin to a character like Spock. He feels that he belongs to neither. He isn't bothered about his royal blood ties, he wouldn't consider himself the right person to lead anyone. He doesn't see himself as a hero.
I'm no leader. I'm not a king. I do not work or play well with others. And I can't let you die trying to turn me into something that I'm not.
And at the start, we see he's more than happy to let people die if he feels it is justified.
You killed innocent people! You're asked to seek for mercy.
As the movie goes on, he is shown both by Mira, his mother, his father, and Volko that he has the chops to be the beacon of hope the Atlanteans so desperately need. He realises that in spite of his strength and power, it is his responsibility to keep people out of harm's way as best as he can. He might not have saved Manta's father, but in a triumphant moment, he spares Orm. He makes his first steps towards being a diplomat and a leader.
Are you ready? Let's talk.
Arthur is not bothered by borders or political gain, he just sees the value in everyone, Atlantean or otherwise, which is why his mother tells him,
But what could be greater than a king?
A hero. A king fights only for his nation. You fight for everyone.
That's one of my favourite lines of dialogue in a superhero movie ever, honestly. When he finally steps out of that waterfall in full regalia, having prized the Trident of Atlan and proven himself worthy, it is truly breathtaking. It might be one of the best superhero dons the costume moments ever. And speaking of that costume, like, just wow. This is the perfect Aquaman costume. This is one of the most faithfully recreated comic book outfits on the big screen of all time. It completely disproves the myth that these costumes need to be toned down or made to look more functional. This is lifted right off the page. The movie's over a year old and I still can't get over how hard they nailed it. The same goes for Ocean Master and Black Manta too. They didn't shy away from any of the goofier elements like that gigantic Manta helmet. Kim Barrett, the costume designer behind these treats, noted that I think the nerds will be happy. She was not wrong. Also, major props to Kim for her work on this, The Matrix, and for creating those already iconic red outfits in Us. I can't gush about this movie without talking about the incredible production design either. Juan and the team had to come up with a whole new underwater world from scratch. They had to think about how these races would build structures and like their buildings, and they made it all look so visually engrossing all at the same time. There's countless moments where our leads travel through Atlantis, bathed in neon lights juxtaposed against these sweeping epic structures, and I get giddy looking at all of it. The film is bursting with imagination, it really is. I get this movie isn't to everyone's taste, but one thing I always think is a good way to view it is, it's totally a Christmas movie. Christmas movies don't need to be set at Christmas to be Christmas movies. This came out in December and it touches on all the values of great Christmas classics. It's about family, love, giving and kindness, as well as trusting in the best parts of people. The holidays are supposed to remind us of all that good stuff, and Aquaman has those values in spades. So I always forgive it for having those goofier tones and for feeling so sincere. This whole movie is epic. By the time we're done, we've gone to so many locations, encountered so many dangers, and seen so many things that it's honestly hard to imagine where a sequel could take this. They've done everything I think I could possibly ask for in an Aquaman movie, but having said that, as long as Juan is at the helm and Momoa is leading the charge, I have no doubt we'll have a compelling reason to revisit Atlantis.
I am Aquaman.
Thank you for watching another Full Fat video. If you'd like to see more from Full Fat videos, why not follow us on Instagram and Twitter? Please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. We've got some cool exclusive content on there. Thank you to our $100 patrons, Dr. Chike and Jax Merrick. Chris and I really, really appreciate it. Until next time, stay milky.